The French craze is in full swing. San Antonio's Victor Wembanyama, reaching the upper strata in his first season, has every derelict organization clawing for any prospect west of the Alps. A year ago, only the most diligent of Instagram scouts knew of Alexander Sarr, a true 7-footer who was beginning his one and only season in the NBL with the Perth Wildcats. Sarr was a professional from the moment he entered adulthood, signing days after his 18th birthday. And as a young man adjusting to a grown man's game, he had his peaks and valleys. In limited minutes, he was able to demonstrate his athletic gifts, scoring 10 a game mostly from around the paint, while confirming the notion that he is indeed the best defensive prospect in the world, averaging 1.3 blocks a game. If we adjust that to 36 minutes, that would put him at 2.8. Amongst his strengths were his flaws. Sarr struggled from the three-point line, and his skinny frame made him a subpar rebounder relative to his height. But he showed tremendous upside, and that put the 19-year-old on the top of every NBA front office's draft board. NBA teams were more than willing to take a gamble at a raw figure who could even slightly resemble Victor Wembanyama. Being 7 foot, defensive oriented, and French, Sarr was the man to choose. Despite the Atlanta Hawks acquiring the #1 pick in the 2024 NBA draft, Sarr explicitly stated he would not suit up for the Hawks. Whatever his reason may be, the Hawks went a different direction, and so the Washington Wizards used their 2nd overall pick to select Sarr. He wasted absolutely no time establishing himself in a summer league. Playing 30 minutes a game, he put up a monster stat line of 5.5 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists. This is supposed to be the best player in the draft. He had 0 points in a game. He went 0 of 15 against the Blazers. If that wasn't a regular season game, that would be the 2nd most shot attempts without scoring a point in NBA history. But it's not the regular season. It's the summer league. 85% of these guys will never make an NBA roster. If he's dropping a donut against this level of competition, when the season begins, this man will be a morsel for the dogs. Sarr's redeeming factor is his defensive prowess, with him averaging 2.5 blocks a game. However, he remains significantly unpolished on the offensive end. The Wizards will need to invest in his development and adjust their timeline accordingly. As of now, compared to other 2nd overall picks in recent memory, Alexander Sarr is closer to James Wiseman than he is to Chet Holmgren. Born in Spain, raised in France, Zaccharie Risacher is one of the most forgettable 1st overall picks of recent memory. Genuinely, I can't recall a #1 pick with less hype around him. I mean, all people want to talk about in regards to this class is Bronny James, and he's the 55th overall pick. There's people out there who probably don't even know who the 1st overall pick is. And it's surprising because when you watch him play, you're looking at a 6'9" ambiguous forward with scoring potential on 2 levels. He's flashy around the rim, and he's very comfortable with the 3 ball. This guy has a lethal jump shot, and he's exhibited it superbly up to this point. Making his EuroLeague debut at 16, Risacher was an uncut gem from the start. To conclude his career in France, in the Euro Cup he averaged 13 points on 57% from the field and a ridiculous 56% from the arc across 17 games. And in league play, he'd average an earthly 10 on 44 and still shoot 35% from the 3-point line. This guy is gearing up to be a pure sniper, and at his height, that is a significant premium. So with all of his offensive proficiency, you'd expect the Frenchman to show out in the summer league. 15 points per game and 5 rebounds per game are solid numbers. He's getting a point per shot. I mean, he at least scored, unlike his countrymen. But the Atlanta Hawks have high expectations for their 1st overall pick, and his capacity will determine the future of the franchise. Trae Young has been the man in Atlanta for the last 6 years. Heading into season 7, he remains committed under his Supermax contract, so he's not walking away anytime soon. This gives Atlanta plenty of leverage if they're interested in bartering Ice Trae, and the haul they secure for an all-NBA point guard in his prime would be substantial. A Trae Young trade could send the Atlanta Hawks into a prosperous rebuild, creating a titan years down the line led by Risacher. But there's another pathway where Risacher assumes the role of Trae Young's vice captain and the Atlanta Hawks flourish as a result. This would be the preferred outcome for Atlanta, as Trae Young despite his weaknesses, is too valuable of a player to discard. A basketball maestro who can run the floor a hair short of the highest level, at 25, all he has is upside. Pairing Young with Rizache along with the Rolodex of shooting wings gives the Oklahoma guard the ideal platform to take that next step, along with the franchise as a whole. It all hinges on their #1 pick, whose Summer League showcase answered plenty of questions while raising just as many new ones. A poor performance and a questionable one from the two supposed best players in the draft class. Third overall pick Reed Sheppard has certainly taken all this international hype as a slight. His assimilation at the next level has been great in certain areas and correctable in others. The homebred Kentucky guard averaged 20 points on 50% from the field in 4 Summer League games. He needs to improve his ball security if he wants to be a starting guard in Houston, but the pace of pro ball is vastly different from college, so it's natural that an on-ball threat would struggle initially. But he'll play behind Fred VanVleet, which is the ideal model for a prospect whose game is so comparable to the veteran point guard. And in terms of his scoring, he certainly has aptitude for it. The league has gotten so wing-oriented, a 6'3" traditional guard is a breath of fresh air. And Sheppard is a surefire winning talent. If there's one player who you can confidently say will have a fruitful, lengthy career, it's probably him. His efficiency was otherworldly at Kentucky, averaging 12.5 and 4.5 on 50-50 shooting. Plus the defense, the Rockets have acquired a foundational piece at the 1 to manage the floor for their rebuilding group who look forward to a booming trajectory. Rob Dillingham declared for the draft alongside his Wildcat brother, going 8th overall to the San Antonio Spurs, who proceeded to flip him to the Timberwolves for future draft compensation. He was the only player worth noting a year ago before the draft process, going viral during his time in Overtime Elite because of his fluidity on the court and his showmanship. Dillingham's career would have favored a destination like San Antonio, having the freedom to make mistakes and grow into his own, but in Minnesota, he's expected to be an immediate contributor for an organization with championship aspirations. The pressure is immense for an 8th overall pick whose archetype is one which requires constant on-the-job training. Seasoned pro Mike Conley can guide him while he transitions from a focal point of an offense to partial involvement, and I say partial involvement initially because if he can flow smoothly into the lineup, he could seriously be the X factor for Minnesota, akin to Jordan Poole during the Golden State Warriors championship run in 22. Dillingham joins the long queue of star student athletes who turn pro and are thrown into the fire to become scorcher fury. Take Michael Porter Jr. He was the #2 prospect coming out of high school and was expected to be the #1 overall pick had he not been injured. As a result, he slid down to the 14th pick out of the lottery and into the arms of the Denver Nuggets, which meant MPJ was in the conference finals his first year playing, and the urgency for his improvement transformed Porter Jr. into an off-ball savant and a valuable piece who would help his team win the ultimate prize. So if Rob Dillingham can properly execute and thrive in his role, the sky's the limit in Minnesota. This draft class consists of up and down performers who will properly receive their judgment only with time. It is still too soon to grade any of them with such inconsistent evidence. Given that the Summer League is around 5 games, it's errant to draw definitive conclusions about a player's career based on such a limited sample. We can properly assess the strength of the 2024 NBA draft class a year from now. In 5 years, we can have a definitive diagnosis, and in 10 years, we'll know the legacies of all 58 players. Thanks for watching.